Hello everybody. Today we are going to see one more topic, that is nothing but Amazon Simple Storage Service, which is called as S3. So this is again storage service which is used for storing our contents on the cloud. Previously in last session we have seen something called EBS, Elastic Block Storage, that is also for storing our files or storing our content on the cloud. We can use that block storage. Now in this also we can have storage facility. So we will go ahead and see this topic. So S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, as it is said. So it is called as object storage because we are going to store the things inside this service using objects. So as I have said, there are three types of storage services available. One which we have already seen is nothing but EBS, which is nothing but Elastic Block Storage. Next we are seeing this S3, and again we have something called EFS, Elastic File System. In this we are going to store the things as files. So here we will go with this topic right now. Here everything will be stored in the form of an object. So object can be a file or any metadata of that file can be stored in the form of object. So that object is stored inside a bucket. So a bucket is nothing but it is a container for the objects. So basically everything will be stored in the bucket. So bucket is the basic thing, which is nothing but it is a folder in which we are going to store our files. So within a bucket you can have subdirectories or different number of subdirectories based on the requirement. So everything will be stored in a bucket as an object. So next. So as we are going to store everything in the form of object, that is why it is called as object based storage. So you see the different objects are available, these are going to be stored inside the bucket and it is kept this way. So everything will be in the form of a bucket, and you can store unlimited number of files, but the only limitation is your file size should not exceed something called 5 terabytes. Means what? You can store anything in simple storage service up to 5 terabytes. So that is the maximum size which you can store. Next, this service provides data protection. Why? Everything will be, whatever files or objects which you are storing, that will be replicated and it will be available in any number of zones available in that data center. So data protection is there. Means what? If in some instance if file is deleted, but as it is replicated, it is available, that file will be available in some other instance in the same region. So how you are going to store data in Amazon 3? Two steps you have to follow. First thing is you need to create a bucket and specify the bucket name and AWS region. These three things you have to do. Next, upload whatever things you want to store into that bucket as objects. So first we will create a bucket and then we will do uploading. So we will go step by step. So what is a bucket? A bucket is nothing but it is a container for objects, as I have said. So whenever you want to create a bucket, you need to give a name, and that name should be a unique name, because the reason is with this name they are going to create a URL. So one designate URL will be created for your bucket. So whenever you want to store something, that will be stored inside that bucket. So a URL is created, so your name should be unique, because everybody will be creating buckets, and once your URL is created, it should be unique so that you can directly connect to your bucket. So that is what is said in this line. You should give a unique name to the bucket so that designate and reserve a URL for your bucket. Once you have created a bucket, we need to know how to access the files, how to add the files to that bucket, how to remove the files from that bucket. There are three ways in which we can do that thing. So first way is you can directly use the URL. Using this URL you can access the bucket and you can add the files or you can delete the files. So how that URL will be looking like? So whatever bucket name you are going to give, that name will be coming over here, followed by s3 dot region code, whatever your region code is there, that, and then Amazon AWS.com and key name. Key name is nothing but the object will be given some key name. That key name you are going to put over here. What is this object? What is that key name? that we can see in the next class. So, one way is using this URL you can access the contents of that bucket. The second way is you can using the console. So, you can directly you have a button called upload button, wherein which will help you to upload the files into that bucket, or you want to download, you have a download button wherein you can download the files from that bucket. Finally, the third way is you can write a code. So, S3 SDK software development kit is there, wherein you can write the code. Using that code you can insert the files in that bucket or folder, or you can delete the folders inside that bucket, whatever you want to do you can do. So, these are the three ways through which you can access the bucket in S3. So, next what is an object? Every object will be having three things. So, as we are going to store everything in the form of object, so it has unique key and values. So, and in object we have three things. First thing is it will have a key. Key is nothing but which represents the file name, the name file which you are going to store, and whatever name you are going to give, that name will be given as key. So, which is used to retrieve the object. Second is the actual content of the file, what is there in that file, that is called as value. And then what version ID is nothing but whenever you add something to the bucket, Amazon S3 generates a string. That string is nothing but version ID. So, with a key and version ID, with the help of key and version ID, you can uniquely identify an object inside a bucket. So, first you have to create the bucket, then for object you have to give these three names, three things, and then you can access everything inside the bucket. So, there are different storage classes available in Amazon. So, you can have different types based on your requirement. Suppose I have to access some data frequently, and its availability should be high and its durability should be high. Means what, you are frequently going to access the data, you are inserting the files, you are removing the file, you are taking out the files and accessing the things, then at that time we are going with something called S3 standard storage class. So, here as facility is provided, so cost will be high. Next, there is one more storage class called S3 standard IA. It is nothing but infrequently accessed. Means what, some files you access very rarely, but you want to keep the data of those files for your storage purpose, then we go for S3 standard IA, infrequently accessed. As we are going to access it less, the fee and the charges will be less for this storage class. Next, there is something called S3 one zone IA. Means what, in a zone, in an availability zone, you want to keep it in only one availability zone. So, this also will be non-critical data which you are going to access very rarely and infrequently you are going to access. Again, so it is a cheaper option, it is cheaper than S3 standard 1A, so IA, so it is cheaper than that. So, infrequent access which you do not want to access the data and you want to keep it for storage, then we go for this S3 one zone IA storage class. Next is Amazon S3 Glacier or Deep Archive. Even this is for the data which you are going to access very rarely and you want to store it and give for a longer time for retention of data, then this is the cheapest one because it is only going to store the data and keep. Next, finally, we have something called Amazon S3 Intelligent Tiering. So, this an Amazon this is an optimal storage class. This will help, and this based on your requirement, it decides what type of storage you want. So, actually it moves your object between storage classes based on data access patterns. So, it is intelligently doing so that this is the optimal storage class which you can use. So, these are all the storage classes which we have. So, S3 is a simple storage service which helps you to store your data or files whichever you want to store. So, this is the theory thing. Now, we will do a practical hands-on session on this. Now, we will log into AWS console and we will take a look at how we can configure a bucket, how we can upload and retrieve files from our S3 bucket. First, we will create S3 bucket. So, go to search bar, search for the S3. So, I will type over here S3. So, once I find that S3, I will click on that S3. First, then you click on, then you select create bucket. And then here we are going to give our bucket a name. So, this name should be unique as I have said, because this is going to create an URL. Suppose if I give some normal name like test, which is generally used by most of the people, and I do not do anything, and I will try to create a bucket. So when I do this, you can see that you see bucket with same name already exists. So we need to give a unique name which should be unique across all AWS accounts. So I will give some name, I will give the name as KMIT test, KMIT test. My bucket name is KMIT test. Then we can take a look at the other settings. There is something called object ownership. So here this is just going to disable our ACLS. This is kind of the recommended approach. When you enable the ACLS, this allows you to kind of put in rules as to other AWS users or other AWS accounts can access your S3 bucket. But I do not want anybody else to access my bucket, so I will keep it as disabled. There are some other settings is the public access settings. So how should people be able to access your bucket? And so right now you can see we are blocking all the public accesses. So no public users can access our bucket, and we are going to leave it that for now. Now if you go down, we see something called versioning. So if you want to enable versioning, you can keep track of with this you can keep track of previous versions of some of your files you could do. So that I am going to go ahead and enable versioning. So I will enable versioning if I want. Then if you want to add in any optional tags to your bucket, you can do that. We are keeping it default right now. Here in the down we have something called encryption. So if you want to encrypt your files, you can either use the Amazon S3 managed keys, which is S3 or AWS managing your keys, or you could select the second one, the one key managed servers, where you are kind of managing the keys yourself. But we will select Amazon S3 managed keys. So next, and then we will go down. So once we go down, we'll just bucket key will just leave that as enabled by default, and then I'll create select bucket key. So this is enabled, I am doing. Next I am creating a bucket, so I click on create bucket. See, it says bucket name must not contain uppercase, so I cannot give uppercases. So I will give something called KMIT test, and then again I will again say create bucket. Now you see, alright, so now that our bucket is created, let's go ahead and select it. And so right now we'll select our bucket, the name which we have given is this. I will click on this. So we are into our bucket. So we have no files, nothing, and we can now upload our files to our bucket. How do we upload files? You can just drag something onto this and you can upload that. Suppose in my laptop I have something called this pic file. I will drag over here and drop, and I have some other files, MongoDB, no, not this one, some other file. I will select from this folder. Or I will go to my something is open, we will check in this. So there is something called dependency, not this one. I will go and select some normal file, word file or something. This file I will select, and I will drop this over there. So now we will drop. So once you drop these files, they are there. We can see the details of the files which are there. Suppose if I click on this, you see the destination S3 which we have created, that is nothing but KMIT test. So in destination if you want to in destination details, you will see what is the versioning and encryption, that all things are there. And then in permissions, if you go, if you want to or any specific properties, you can also specify which storage class you want this file will be associated. If you see over here, permissions, if you learn more, it will tell all those permissions whatever you want. Or if you go to like in properties, it shows which storage class you want. So anything you want or any encryption settings you want, those all things will be there. So I am going to select the file. So now it is going to go on. We are not going to do anything, we are just saying upload. So once I say upload, these two things, one pic and one file which we have stored, that will be uploaded. So if I go to my bucket, now you see these two files are uploaded. So when I click on this, you can see the details of overview of that file. So here this one, you have that URL which I said, and URL will be created. So how do you access a bucket? Using your name, bucket name whatever you have given, followed by S3 amazon.kname, and the object name which is nothing but the name which we have selected for storage. So that is nothing but syllabus.xlx. So now if you want to see, and now this is stored on your bucket, S3 bucket. So if I want to open, I can directly click open. Once I click open, that file will be downloaded onto your system, and so you see this downloading is done. Once downloading is done, you click on that file will be opened. So you click on this file will be opened. So when you say open also, at that time this file is opened. So this file which I have downloaded, that will be opened. So one way of opening your file is directly you can use this open button, or the another way is you can again click download. Once you click, see this is what the file which I have uploaded. So these contents I can see over here. Now if I want to download, again if I click on download also, at that time also this file will be downloaded onto my laptop. So these are the two ways through which you can access. There is a URL thing also is there, but we will see this in the next session. Thank you.